In 1973, the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, Richard Helms, issued an absolute non-negotiable order. Every single file, document, and recording related to a classified project, codenamed mkultra, was to be thrown into the shredder. For 20 years, this operation had pushed the absolute boundaries of behavioral modification, operating entirely in the shadows of the Cold War. The order was executed perfectly. Millions of pages of evidence turned into grey ash. The secrets, it seemed, were gone forever. But bureaucracy has a funny habit of tripping over its own feet. 4 years later, in 1977, a routine compliance check in a completely unrelated fiscal archive uncovered something the shredder missed. One lone box. Inside were 20,000 pages of financial receipts, travel vouchers, and funding logs. This is the story of how a single misfiled box of financial paperwork exposed one of history's most chilling operations. To understand why mkultra existed, we have to look at the sheer panic of the early 1950s. American prisoners of war were returning from Korea, standing in front of cameras and praising their captors in eerie, robotic tones. The Pentagon panicked. They convinced themselves that foreign intelligence agencies had unlocked a chemical key to the human mind, a way to rewrite a person's core loyalties. In response, the CIA launched its own counteroffensive on April 13, 1953. The mission wasn't just to understand behavioral control, it was to master it. To run the program, they turned to a man named Sidney Gottlieb, a brilliant, eccentric chemist who wore old clothes, lived on an eco-farm, and spent his days figuring out how to quietly shatter the human psyche. Gottlieb knew that testing chemicals in a controlled laboratory wouldn't show how people reacted in the real world. So, they took the experiment to the streets. Under Sub-Project 42, later known as Operation Midnight Climax, the agency set up hidden safe houses in San Francisco and New York. They hired local operatives to lure unsuspecting citizens to these apartments. Behind two-way mirrors, CIA researchers sat with notebooks, recording the psychological effects of unprescribed substances mixed into drinks. The targets had no idea that they were inside a government laboratory. Many left the safe houses experiencing severe psychological distress, entirely unaware of why their reality had just fractured. By the early 1970s, the political landscape was shifting. The Watergate scandal had shattered public trust, and journalists were beginning to pull at the loose threads of intelligence community overreach. Sensing the coming storm, the order was given to erase the paper trail. When the Church Committee convened in 1975 to investigate government overreach, investigators repeatedly hit a brick wall. The files were gone. The witnesses were tight-lipped. The official conclusion was that the full truth of mkultra was permanently lost to history. Until 1977. Because, while Sidney Gottlieb's team had successfully destroyed the operational files, the detailed reports of what they did, they forgot about the accountants. A budget employee found a cache of misfiled financial records under a completely different administrative heading. The files contained detailed expense reports, travel reimbursements for top-secret chemists, and funding pathways routed through prestigious university research foundations. The financial skeleton of the entire operation was laid bare. The discovery forced a second round of Senate hearings, pulling the names, the safe houses, and the true massive scale of the project into the light of day. It proved that the most complex secrets aren't always buried in deep underground vaults. Sometimes they're just waiting in a mislabeled box in the basement. If you want to look past the sensational headlines and explore the real, documented history that shaped our modern world, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Leave a comment below. What do you think is the most surprising historical event uncovered by a simple mistake? Let's talk about it. See you in the next story.